Hey, I'm Ted Santos. I'm your host of Straight Talk, and we are that talk show that is made for men by men. And ladies, you never want to miss it. Had a great show yesterday. I had a really good guest, Chris Cantu, and we were talking about people being divided and conquered. And you know, today's what I want to speak to today is without question in that same area of being divided and conquered. And as you see the title, what do you think Black Lives Matter and Jada Pinkett have in common? So I've got 7 of them that I'm saying they have in common, and I'll even give you a bonus. So let's get into this. So we all know who BLM, Black Lives Matter, is, and Jada Pinkett is just been hot in the news. So you know, it's amazing how our year has gone from one. It's almost like we're watching plays, right? Drama. So as you see, I took myself out in the wilderness to get away from all the drama, and I've put myself in a very natural environment, right? As I said before, I'm Tarzan in the jungle, and I literally lived in the jungle before. So in my tranquil environment, I want to talk about some drama that we've been seeing lately in the United States. And so I'm going to start with what Jada Pinkett and Black Lives Matter have in common. And the first one is they both are really good playing the victim. I mean, just so in general, as I don't care about race, this goes beyond race, right? Even though I'm talking about Jada Pinkett and Black Lives Matter, this whole thing of playing the victim, Black women in the United States have no monopoly on this. We watch this from white women, Hispanic, Asian. A woman could do something as egregious as cheating, right? So look at Jada. She cheated on her husband and somehow made herself a victim. And this was all because her husband made her feel alone and unhappy. She was the victim, so she had to go out and find another man. And Black Lives Matter, well, their whole platform is all about women being victims and being devastated by what they call the cis male, the het male, cis het. The heterosexual male is oppressing women in the United States. If men were so oppressive to women in the United States and women were that much of a victim, we would have crushed Black Lives Matter. They wouldn't have stood a chance. There'd be nothing like Oprah. You'd see no women on the 7 o'clock news, the anchor woman on the Eyewitness News, Sade something. I remember that woman when she was a waitress in a jazz club in Washington, D.C. called Tacoma Station. So women couldn't accomplish any society that oppresses people. You would never have people, like I said, like Oprah and Oprah's friend. And we can go down the list and of business women, the CEO of General Motors. We had a female CEO of Hewlett Packard, HP. So women don't rise up to be the top dogs at the top of the food chain in a civilization that's oppressing them. But yet somehow they create this whole platform of being victims. And you know, another thing, who really cares who you have sex with, right? You're a woman and you want to have sex with another woman. Like, why do you need to come to the workplace and tell us? Why are you believing you're a victim? I mean, technically I should be a victim because I enjoy sex with beautiful women. So technically, I should have more privileges because I like beautiful, intelligent women, which makes the world a more beautiful place to live in. And with intelligent women, we'll make beautiful and intelligent babies. But no one cares. But somehow Black Lives Matter figures out that they need to announce to the world that they like same sex and they're victimized for it. The other thing they both have in common is they break up families and then figure out that they are the victim. So Black Lives Matter is very clear about wanting to break up the nuclear family, which gets the father out of the house. So they want to break up families. They don't care about the man and what his feelings and needs are. And Jada Pinkett, well, what did she do? She has a husband. She's been married to, what, 25 years? She could care less about his feelings and how he would feel, and even has dragged him out into the media to announce to the world she's a victim. So, Black Lives Matter, Jada Pinkett, experts at being victims, and they learned in a society that is surely very good at victimhood. Second thing, both Black Lives Matter and Jada Pinkett have an appreciation for males, wearing dresses. Black Lives Matter, what do they want? They stand for the transgender male, the gay male. That's who they're for. Jada Pinkett has a son wearing a dress. While her husband is out making hundreds of millions of dollars, making films, becoming one of the top, highest paid actors in history, what is she doing? She's teaching her son that wearing a dress is what it means to be a man. I mean, you don't see Will presenting himself like that ever throughout his career. Yet somehow, while he's out working, his wife is teaching values. And this should teach all of you men about the importance of understanding compatibility, because otherwise you will have a woman, especially in this day and age of hatred towards the heterosexual man, the straight man, on Straight Talk. Your wife will be having your son wearing a dress and saying that it's diversity or some other justification. He's a victim for wearing pants. The next thing is they both use heterosexual men as a platform for publicity and ratings. Black Lives Matter, what do? They only wait until a man is in a heterosexual man. They wait until he has a big enough hoopla, like he's got enough going on around him, and then they come stand on that heterosexual man's shoulders and announce to the world that they are here. So Black Lives Matter stands before any black man is beaten by the police. Black Lives Matter will tell you they want nothing to do with you. In fact, they want you out of the house. However, if you are damaged, beaten, hurt by the police, well, they'll now come stand on your grave and suck up all the publicity. Protests, riots. And Jada has done the same thing with her husband. The next thing is they both will risk reputations of heterosexual men. So they don't care about the well-being of men, just in general, unless you're gay or trans. They don't support healthy black heterosexual men or any heterosexual man. They seek to destroy healthy heterosexual men, especially black men. And they'll help men only when they see men as being damaged and weak, right? So Jada risked the reputation of her husband. At first she lied and said she wasn't cheating. Now she says she is. She actually dragged him out. And Will's reputation is I mean, he's had a stellar reputation throughout his career. Even as a rap artist, he was not one of those, thugging, gangster, kill the police or kill anyone. He wasn't dirty. He was really clean, and he went into a great family show as the Fresh Prince, and then he went into making really good movies and known as being a great actor. And his whole reputation can be washed down the drain because his wife did not care. She was unhappy. And so Black Lives Matter will actually do the same thing with men. Black Lives Matter is actually risking the reputation of men for their own publicity and well-being. They actually encourage men to come out and protest and riot with them. That not only risks the reputation of men, right? They're asking heterosexual and gay men to come out and risk their reputations for women who want to be acknowledged for sleeping with other women. So there are men out there who get caught up in the whole emotional, especially if they're raised by single mothers, right? So Black Lives Matter, if it was only women out there, that would have one set of power. But if they're able to get men to come out and risk their own reputations, their careers, being hurt, being killed, they actually don't care. They're more concerned about their mission to break up families and support women, especially gay women, and they're willing to risk the reputation and lives of men. Now, here's an interesting one. Both Jada and Black Lives Matter, they both love the thug life, right? So Black Lives Matter clearly makes its name in supporting black men who've been criminals. So if that were not the case, they would actually be stepping up, talking about the black lives of men who are out here making things happen, building great families. But they only support men who are the thugs, the criminals, the men who have a track record of wrongdoing. And Jada Pinkett, well, she loved the kind of original thug boy, Tupac. And maybe she never stopped loving him. Maybe Will was just some filler for what she felt was missing in her life. So she comes from a thuggish environment. That's where she's comfortable. And she's never let go of that. She just hasn't. So both Black Lives Matter and Jada, here's another one. Neither of them, standing on a somewhat precarious mound of mud here. So neither of them build economic power with heterosexual black men. They don't. Because if Jada was, she wouldn't risk her husband's reputation. So whatever they're building as a family, she's willing to risk all of that, one, with an affair, and two, putting such a huge spotlight on it. That is not the sign of a woman who is out looking to build economic power, right? So if you haven't seen, I actually did a video on the tangible benefits a man should look for in a woman. And in that video, if Jada was actually living that and supplying tangible benefits. I'm not saying there are no benefits to Will. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if she was actually following what I put in that video about women providing tangible benefits, the way she would be taking care of her husband would be very different than what she's presenting to the world, because those tangible benefits actually are in service to creating economic power and building legacies, right? Generational wealth. I mean, she's been a B-class actress. There's no way that she could have the lifestyle if she was a single mother depending on her, or just a single woman depending on her acting career. It's Will that's been the champion, without question. So Black Lives Matter is the same. They do not care about building economic power with men. And if you doubt me, look at the amount of money they've gotten from the Ford Foundation and George Soros. I mean, that's over 120 million, right? If they were about building economic power, they would be looking at generational wealth, which means you need a man and a woman. So if Black Lives Matter, how can Black Lives matter if your lifestyle doesn't produce children? It doesn't. A gay lifestyle cannot create generational wealth, not naturally. And it doesn't give the child everything that they need. You know, a woman gives one half to a boy or a girl, and the father gives the other half. So the amount of money that they are getting and being funded with, Black Lives Matter, they are not out to build anything with men. The Democracy Alliance is funneling a ton of money into Black Lives Matter, and that goes in elsewhere. But if Black Lives Matter was about building generational wealth and economic power, they would be creating jobs for the black community if they say Black Lives Matter. And I'm not talking about jobs protesting. I'm talking about jobs where you actually start to own industries and partnering with other people. Like Jada Pinkett could actually be doing that with her husband and creating the right networks. I've got a couple of bees. They like me out here. Oh, that's a fly. Okay. And here's the last one that Jada Pinkett and Black Lives Matter has in common. Have you ever heard of any publicity is good publicity, including negative publicity? Well, Jada Pinkett she should call herself the queen of getting any publicity, which is negative publicity. I'm willing to bet her red table talk was not doing as well as it was, right? So if you look at some of her hottest shows, it's like Snoop Dogg and other drama-filled shows where she's getting publicity off of something negative from some other person. So what she did with her husband by dragging this out and saying, I didn't have an affair, I did have an affair, and then bringing it to her show, she just pushed the ratings up on her show significantly. Like, if her show wasn't doing so well, you better believe the ratings just went up and people are watching. They're paying attention to her again. She was becoming irrelevant. It's Will who has the relevance as an entertainer, not her. She's an attractive woman. But clearly, that's not enough because there are millions of attractive women in the world. So the way she's now drawn attention to herself is to get negative publicity. It pushes ratings up for her show. She used her husband. She created drama. And even though it's considered negative and she may be risking her husband's career, it's drawn attention to her show. it keeps the drama going, and people will be looking to see what's next. But you know, this is going to be a tough act to beat now, right? Because I'm not sure what she would have to do after this if her ratings don't stick. Now, Black Lives Matter, negative publicity, protesting, riots, stopping streets. Black Lives Matter is filled with getting negative publicity, filled with it. They thrive on that. But if you say, well, they want to defund the police, that's negative publicity, because black women are screaming, no one's protecting them. So if you defund the police, now who's going to protect you? They complain that there's domestic violence, so who will you call? And if Black Lives Matter doesn't even want men around, except for gay men, who's going to protect you? So Black Lives Matter thrives. It thrives on negative publicity. It just does. So imagine you build an entire platform based on negative publicity. How does that work? And who are you risking? As I've already pointed out. I want to give you one more bonus, right? So both Jada and Black Lives Matter, they take money from men. Even though they exploit men, how do you take money from men and you don't really care about them that much? Right? Jada's gonna fix the broken man, right? But she takes money from Will as she's fixing this broken guy she's having an affair with. Black Lives Matter takes millions from George Soros, yet they don't want anything to do with heterosexual men. Well, here's what's most interesting. Most of you know about George Soros, the Ford Foundation, Democracy Alliance. Most of you don't know about the Koch brothers, K-O-C-H, Charles and David Koch. David is dead, but Charles Koch and George Soros have actually teamed up. They teamed up and they have this, what did they call it? They teamed up for the End U.S. Forever war policy. So these two men are claiming to come together to create new policies that ends war with the U.S. So they are saying that they're creating this think tank that is called the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. And it's a homage to John Quincy Adams, who believed that the U.S. should be more isolationist and live and let other people do the same. So both Charles Koch and George Soros say they're embracing that philosophy. Except here's what most people don't know about the Koch brothers. And I'm extrapolating a bit, right? So if George Soros and the Koch brothers are teaming up on that, I'm going to assert that the Koch brothers have their hands in Black Lives Matter also. Why? Because they've had this insatiable desire, appetite to control the government. So they started a libertarian party back in the 70s. Never really took off, so they figured they'd just buy the Republican Party. Well, in the 90s, when Bill Clinton wanted to impose a BTU tax because they have a lot of billions of dollars they make in oil, that most of it they get up in Canada. What did they do when Clinton was attempting to impose a tax? They created the Tea Party, and they did exactly what you're seeing with Black Lives Matter. They paid people to protest and riot in D.C., and the Koch brothers, who they've been are the Teflon men. Whenever someone goes after them, whenever there's a problem, somehow they're in there and they walk out unscathed. whatever whatever hits the rest of the world, it just slides off their back like they're Teflon, man. And they are involved in teaming up with George Soros. Well, if you look at the whole strategy of how Black Lives Matter is, it's very, 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 it parallels with what they've done in the past on several different occasions in creating all this hysteria because it hides and allows them to sweep under. These cats have had oil spills in the millions of gallons, and they either don't report it or they say they 10,000 gallons spilled when really it was 2 million gallons. So these guys, I'm not saying conspiracy theory, I'm saying their hands are dirty and they figure out how to get out of things by paying politicians, by creating complete distractions, chaos theory. They create such a chaotic event that the real trick that's happening, you never get to see it because you're watching it, the chaos. Well, I'm saying Koch brothers and George Soros working together, what you get is something like Black Lives Matter. They recently bought the Koch brothers, Georgia Pacific, which is a paper company, headquarters up in Minnesota. So there's so much happening in Minnesota that maybe we need to keep our eyes on that. Maybe there's more going on here than we realize. But yet, Black Lives Matter takes money from people like this. So are they just being used? Are they the chaos theory that keeps us all watching the dog and pony show while something else is happening here, including the pandemic? So, keep your eyes open. So if we look at just a recap of what does Black Lives Matter and Jada Pinkett have in common, they both played the victim. They both have an appreciation for men in dresses, feminizing men. They both use heterosexual men as a platform for publicity and ratings. They will both risk the reputation of and livelihood and well-being of heterosexual men. They both support and love thug life. They don't build power with heterosexual men or black men or any men. And have you heard of, they both love getting any publicity, including negative publicity. And man, they work it like the Wicked Witch of the West. I think that was the bad one, right? Maybe we have to throw some water on them and watch them say, "I'm melting." So, if you think they have some other things in common and I missed it, love to hear what you think. As I've said before, I'm just joining onto Patreon, and I'll be putting a lot more videos there that you won't find anywhere else. Some of these will deal with, like, really developing, being able to pull out your own power, right? So I've jokingly told people I'm an alchemist. And an alchemist, what does an alchemist do? An alchemist, they say back in the day, could transform lead into gold. How did they do that? They had a really hot, white hot flame, and they had this white substance that they would put on the lead. And by going through a process and knowing when to apply that substance, they literally burned off all the lead properties until you had what was left was the essence of the metal, which is gold. I'm saying that's what's available for everyone. You just need the tools. Like an alchemist had the tools, and they had to understand the instructions and follow them. Well, I have tools of personal transformation. So that's transforming lead into gold. I'm saying everyone has this gold in them. And our education system, our family structures, the chaos that we're seeing doesn't support helping people pull the gold out of them. So I'd like to put some videos on to Patreon and some other things where I've done a lot more research. And I'd like to give you the opportunity to transform your own selves into gold. One is with information and the other one is with tools. So join me over there. Like and share this video. I love to hear your comments. What do you think I missed? And until next time, you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.